Have you ever felt like you have no control of something that's going on in your life? It could be based on something that you yourself are experiencing or something that a loved one is experiencing. And maybe you've just looked at the situation and maybe you've tried some things and nothing has worked. And sometimes when we go through situations like that, I'm sure we've all gone through something like that to an extent. Sometimes when we go through stuff like that, we resort to just worrying about it. Because obviously there's nothing you can do. When it means it's out of your control, it means there's literally nothing you can do to fix something. And so sometimes we stress and we're anxious, or sometimes what we do is we will blame God. Like, why do you allow me to go through this? Aren't you in control? The story that we heard today in the gospel is a story of a man who really felt like things were out of control, especially for somebody that he loved. It was his son. And not only were things out of his control, but what the gospel tells us, actually something very scary. It wasn't only not in his control, his son was being controlled by the devil. So that's a very, very scary thing. And so let's see what this man did, because there's a lot that we can learn from him about how to have true faith and about how to have healing for ourselves and for others. We could just imagine the state that this guy was in, how he got to this point. He probably tried to do a lot on his own, first of all. I mean, when that happens to your son, it says his son was jumping in the fire and jumping in the water, and there were things that were really confusing to him. So it probably first started with the dad trying to go and help the son. And then when he realized that he couldn't do that, maybe he reached for help from other people. Maybe he even went to a doctor. And nothing could work. And then he realized that, okay, there's this guy named Jesus that has been doing miracles, so I'm going to go to him. But then he maybe tried to go to Jesus and he couldn't find him, because this actually was the moment when, these were the days when Jesus, if you remember the story of the Transfiguration, when he was on the mountain with 3 of his apostles. He wasn't there for 6 days. And so this man was probably looking and he couldn't find Christ. And so he said, I'm going to do the next best thing. I'm going to go to his apostles. So he went to the apostles of Jesus and they couldn't heal him. And so this man has been trying everything. He's been getting people to help him. He got the apostles of Jesus Christ to help him, and nothing is working. And so instead of blaming God and giving up, this man did something very remarkable. Yes, he goes to Jesus and he tells him what his problem was, but that's not the first thing that he does. Notice what it says in the gospel. Very important first thing that the man does. It says he went and he knelt before him. This is an act of worship. This is an act of humility in approaching God. This is a man who knows who Jesus is. He knows his power and he knows his place in relation to Jesus. He kneels before him, and the first thing that he says is not, you must heal my son. I know you have the power to do it, so you have to do it. Even though that's what we tell God sometimes. What does he say? What's the first thing that he says is, have mercy on my son, for he is suffering. And he just described the situation to Jesus. And then he tells him, I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him. So he shows that he's trusting and he's trying. He went to the disciples. And then Jesus says, bring him here to me. Bring him here to me. And he heals him right away with just one word. This man who had no control, who realized that the devil was in control, this man made an act of going to Christ. And in that act, Christ took over. Christ took control of the situation and of the person. But it was because this man acted first. This man acted with faith, something that the apostles didn't have. They went up to him. Yes, we know that the apostles are the foundation of our church, but we also know that they are human beings and that they did have moments of failure. And so they went up to Jesus and they said, why couldn't we heal him? He said, because of your little faith. This man had more faith than them. If you had faith as a grain of mustard seed, like a tiny, tiny dot. If you had that much faith, you could say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would listen to you. He's not necessarily telling them that they have no faith, and that if you only had this much, or like if we have only a tiny bit more faith, we would be able to move mountains. That's not necessarily what it's about. What is faith in this context? A mustard seed. Think of a seed. What is a seed? A seed will grow into a tree, and it will bear fruit. It's living. It's acting. It is moving. And it needs things. It needs nourishment. And that's what the faith is. This kind does not come out except by prayer and fasting. Just like a seed, you need to water it daily. You need to nourish it. And that's how we will grow in our faith. It's not just by the snap of a finger that we're going to have more faith. Because maybe you're thinking like, okay, I wish I can be like this guy. I wish I can have that type of faith, but I don't. I'm very stressed. I'm very anxious. I don't have a lot of faith in God. And I'm struggling, and things are out of my control. Well, what's the first thing that you should do? Why don't you try doing what this man did? Go and kneel before Jesus. Just kneel before Jesus. It could be in the chapel, in front of his body in the form of bread in the Eucharist. It could be here when you receive Qurbana. It could be at home in your room. Just kneel. Make that act of reverence and of faith. And also know that this is going to take daily effort on your part. Prayer and fasting. Daily effort. And it might not happen right away, but the more you do it, the more you see that this is a relationship with Jesus. Bring him here to me. He says, without me, you can do nothing. Do we really believe that or not? Are we going to keep trying to do everything on our own, or are we going to finally trust in Jesus? And no matter where we are in our faith journey, we know that he's with us, and we know that he will give us the strength. We even heard from what St. Paul said in the letter. Very, very comforting words. St. Paul, this great, one of the greatest saints. And he says, I know that we have to die with Christ so that we can live with him. That's what the faith is all about. But he says, not that I have reached this goal yet, but I press on to make it my own. I press on to make it my own. I keep going, even though I haven't reached that goal yet. Why? He says, I press on to make it my own because he has made me his own. That's what it's all about. Yeah, we don't know where we're going to go next. We don't know what's going to happen in our lives necessarily, but we do know that we are his, that he loves us, and that we shouldn't keep trying to do things without him. We should be surrendering our whole lives to him and letting him guide us, letting him give us the strength and the grace to be able to live freely and to be able to live as his disciples and ultimately as his children, because that's what he wants from us. He wants us to realize that we're wasting our time, we're wasting all of our stress, all of our anxieties on things that are out of our control when we could be giving it to him and allowing him to guide us and allowing him to give us his grace so that we can be healed, and those of us in our lives that we love can also be healed by his grace. Amen.